Today, we're diving into the EU AI Act, but we're going to look at it from an angle you might not expect. We're going to explore how this massive regulation could secretly apply to your products, even if your team has never, ever used the words artificial intelligence. So let's get right into it. So let's just start with the big question right out of the gate. Is the device you're working on, right now, secretly an AI system? You're probably thinking, of course not. But stick with me here, because the official definition under this new law is way, way broader than most engineers and product managers realize. And honestly, this is the heart of the problem. There's this common idea that the AI Act is for the big AI labs, the folks building massive language models. But that's just not true. Its reach extends all the way down to the firmware level. And that blind spot is exactly what we're going to uncover today. Okay, so to figure out if your product is actually caught in this net, we first have to understand the new rules of the game. So let's break down the core definitions that really, really matter for anyone working on embedded systems. So, why are we talking about this now? Well, as you can see, this isn't some far-off thing. The act is already entering into force. The first big deadline is early 2025. But the date you really need to circle in red on your calendar is August 2026. That's when the really tough rules for high-risk AI systems kick in. And trust me, you do not want to be caught scrambling then. That timeline brings us to the most basic question of all. What even is an AI system according to this law? Well, the official definition is surprisingly broad. You can forget about giant, complex neural networks for a minute. We're talking about any machine-based system that can learn from data to make predictions or decisions. The key words here aren't just executing code. It's the ability to infer and learn. And this slide really nails the difference. Think about it this way. Conventional software is like a basic thermostat. You hard-code a rule. If the temperature drops below 20 degrees, turn on the heat. That's it. It just follows a simple, predefined script. An AI system, on the other hand, learns. That's your smart thermostat that starts to notice, hey, this person leaves for work every day around 8 a.m., and then starts lowering the heat on its own to save energy. See? One follows orders, the other learns from patterns. Now, let's talk about where things get really serious, the high-risk category. This is where the compliance burden just explodes, and there are two main ways your system can get this label. For most embedded teams, that first one is the one that should set off alarm bells. If your AI is part of a safety-critical feature, think a braking system in a robot or a diagnostic tool in a medical device, it's pretty much automatically considered high risk. And finally, who's on the hook for all this? The law has a name for them, the provider. And that's the company putting the final product on the market. Now here's the kicker, and this is so important. Even if you use a third-party model or a supplier built the feature for you, if it's in your product, under your brand name, guess what? You are the provider. You can't outsource this responsibility. So you can probably see where this is going. It's shockingly easy to become an accidental AI provider. This isn't about people trying to cheat the system. It's about everyday product decisions that can have these huge, unforeseen consequences. So let's look at a couple of super common scenarios where this happens. We're going to walk through two stories that happen all the time. First, we've got the unseen update, where a change happens that you might not even be aware of. And second, a classic I'm sure many of you have lived through, the prototype that shipped. Okay, let's dive into scenario A. Picture this. Your team makes industrial machinery, and it has a self-diagnostic feature. It works okay, but it throws a few too many false alarms. It's a standard engineering problem, right? So you do the totally normal thing. You go to your component supplier and ask for a more reliable version. So a few months later, your supplier delivers. And it's great. The new component is much more reliable. False positives are gone. Your team is thrilled. You integrate it, and you move on. But what the supplier didn't exactly highlight in the release notes is how they did it. They just quietly swapped out the old, simple rule-based logic and replaced it with a small but very effective machine learning model. And boom, just like that, with one little component update, your product is now an AI system. You didn't design it, you might not even know it's in there, but because you are placing that final product on the market, you are the provider. And since it's a safety diagnostic feature on machinery, you're now the provider of a high-risk AI system with all the legal obligations that come with it. Now for our second story, the prototype that shipped. This one is probably going to feel pretty familiar to a lot of you. Your R&D team pulls together this brilliant proof of concept for a big customer pitch. And to really wow them, they use a small open source classifier to show off a new predictive maintenance feature. I mean, it's just a demo, right? Little smoke and mirrors to get the deal signed. Well, of course, the demo is a huge success. The customer doesn't just like the concept, they love the prototype itself. They turn to your sales team and say, "That exact thing you just showed us, we want it. Ship it." The deal is huge, the pressure is on, and everyone celebrates the win. But in all that excitement, a critical line was crossed. The moment that deal was made, your tech demo stopped being a demo and became a product. And your team, they just became the provider of an AI system. And with that comes the full weight of compliance under the AI Act, most likely in that high-risk category. So what happens when you find yourself in that high-risk category, whether you meant to or not? What does compliance actually look like in practice? Let's walk through the checklist of what's required. Let me be very clear. This is not a little bit of extra paperwork. This is a massive undertaking. We're talking incredibly detailed technical documentation on everything from system design to your training data. You need a formal risk management system that runs through the entire product lifecycle. You have serious transparency obligations to your users. You have to set up post-market monitoring. And finally, you have to pass a rigorous conformity assessment before you can even sell the product. It is a huge engineering and legal effort. All of this brings us to the most important question. What should you be doing right now? Because as we've seen, the biggest threat here isn't about someone trying to skirt the rules on purpose. And this right here is the key takeaway of this entire explainer. In the world of embedded systems, the real danger isn't malicious intent. It's discovering that you're in scope way too late in the process, when the product is already shipping and the cost of fixing it is just astronomical. This law doesn't care if you call yourself an AI company. It applies to anyone placing a product with AI functionality on the EU market. Period. If your products have features that could even remotely qualify, you need to be assessing your exposure right now, not when a regulator or a customer starts asking some very pointed questions. So we'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you understand the definitions and you've seen the risks of accidentally falling into scope, I want you to take a minute and really think about your own products, your supply chain, and your development process. What's hiding in your code?